midbrain. So mesencephalon, you know, it is the only brain vesicle that is not divided, yes, as a stage of 5 brain vesicles. So at both stages, it is developed from mesencephalon. Here we can see, on the ventral surface of the brain, we can see only cerebral peduncles. Here they are. The rest part, they are covered by the other parts of the brain, by cerebral hemispheres. Here, if you look, this is midbrain. So topography. It is located in the posterior cranial fossa together with other structures of brainstem in the clivus. Yes, and if we talk about syncope, we should say that below midbrain there is pons. Above and in front there are structures of diencephalon, and so from behind it is covered by cerebral hemispheres. Yes. Okay, so external structure. In midbrain, 3 surfaces are distinguished. There is ventral surface, 4 surfaces, 2 lateral surfaces, and dorsal surface. So ventral surface is presented by cerebral peduncles, pedunculi cerebri. And the cerebral peduncles, like cerebellar peduncles, they are structures which are formed by white matter. Only tracts pass through it. Between 2 cerebral peduncles, there is interpeduncular fossa, this fossa interpeduncularis. And here in this interpeduncular fossa, we even can see here there is posterior perforated substance, substantia perforata posterior. It has numerous openings for vessels which enter and leave through it. At the medial surface of cerebral peduncles, there is oculomotor groove, sulcus oculomotorius. And this is a place where roots of 3rd pair of cranial nerves, oculomotor nerve, exit from the brain. This is what we can see, yes, on the ventral surface. Lateral surface is presented by lemniscal trigon. So this lemniscal trigon is bounded superiorly by lateral surface, lateral border of brachium of inferior colliculus. Then from the other side, from inferior medial side, it is bounded by lateral surface of superior cerebellar peduncle. And now I was searching actually the other side. It's written the lateral groove. What is lateral groove?
Of brainstem.
Maybe, yes, lateral groove. So here this is lemniscal trigon. It is a place where all the lemnisci, and totally they are 4, we said, yes, and all the lemnisci, they are ascending tracts, they are located very superficially. And in the past, in case of non-curable pain, so the pain that couldn't be cured by any other way, like a surgery was performed, a crossing, like cutting of all of these fibers. But in this case, patient lost all types of sensation, not only pain, but all the other types of sensation on one side, so on opposite side, yes, because lemniscus is formed by fibers after the causation. Dorsal surface of midbrain is presented by tectum or quadrigeminal plate. So this tectum has 2 pairs of colliculi, 2 superior colliculi and 2 inferior colliculi. They are connected by means of brachium. Brachium of superior colliculus is connected by brachium of superior colliculus with lateral geniculate body, and this is a structure of diencephalon. So these 2, they are subcortical centers of vision. Inferior colliculus is connected by means of brachium of inferior colliculus with medial geniculate body. And these 2 structures, they are subcortical centers of hearing. Between 2 inferior colliculus and below, slightly below, there is a place that is named frenulum of superior medullary veil, and this is a place from where roots of the 4th pair of cranial nerves, trochlear nerve, they arise. So trochlear nerve is the only nerve that arises from dorsal surface of the brain. All the rest, they arise from ventral surface. But even trochlear nerve, after exit from the brain, it surrounds midbrain from lateral side and goes to ventral surface. Okay, so between 2 superior colliculi and slightly above also there is pineal gland or epiphysis, and it is structure of diencephalon. So this is external structure. Internally, in internal structure of midbrain, we can distinguish three parts. Ventral part, these are cerebral peduncles. Then middle part, it is tegumentum, and this tegumentum is separated from cerebral peduncles by means of substantia nigra, or black substance. And dorsal part is named tectum. Boundary between tegumentum and tectum passes through the cavity of midbrain, that is Sylvian aqueduct. Here we can see Sylvian aqueduct, the cavity of the midbrain. Inferiorly it communicates with fourth ventricle, and superiorly it continues to the third ventricle. So first, cerebral peduncles, crus cerebri. They are formed only by white matter and only by descending tracts, and we can conditionally divide each cerebral peduncle into 5 equal parts. And then we can say that through the medial 1/5 of it, the frontopontine tract passes, and through the lateral 1/5 occipitotemporopontine tract passes. They together form corticopontine tract, because frontopontine tract starts from the cortex of frontal lobe, and occipitotemporopontine tract starts from the cortex of occipital and temporal lobes of cerebral hemispheres. And then this corticopontine tract moves downward, yes, reaches nuclei of the pons, pontine nuclei, forms synapse here, and from this nuclei of the pons, pontocerebellar tract starts, that enters cerebellum through middle cerebellar peduncles. Middle part of cerebral peduncles is presented by pyramidal tracts. They are corticonuclear tract in the middle, medially, and laterally 2/5 of cerebral peduncles are occupied by corticospinal tract, tractus corticospinalis. And these fibers of corticospinal tract, they also arranged like a lateral half of this. Could you please go out? До свидания. We have a lesson. You're welcome. So lateral half is presented by fibers which move to lower limbs and lower part of the body, and medial half is presented by fibers which move to upper limbs and upper part of the body. So these are cerebral peduncles. Tegumentum. Tegumentum is presented by both gray matter and white matter. So we'll start with gray matter, and I said that boundary between cerebral peduncles and tegumentum, it is substantia nigra, or black substance. It is nucleus, yes, it is formed by neuron bodies, and it contains large amount of iron, because these neurons, they use as neurotransmitter, like this chemical substance that serves for transmission, yes, of irritation from one neuron to another, they use dopamine. And this dopamine is transformed into melanin, and so that's why iron is deposited here. There is another nucleus, that is red nucleus, nucleus ruber. It also contains iron, but in less amount than substantia nigra. So that's why substantia nigra is black, and red nucleus, it is red in color, dark red. These two nuclei, they belong to extrapyramidal system. They are connected with basal nuclei of cerebral hemispheres, and they regulate muscular tone. They belong to inhibitory systems. They inhibit movements, they make them less active. That's why any pathology in these two nuclei, yes, in substantia nigra and red nucleus, it causes Parkinson's disease. So patient, he's shaking all the time, yes, he cannot stop the movement, yes, movement is always excessive. Okay, so the second group of nuclei, it is presented by reticular formation. And that it is present not only here, but we said in the pons. Yes, is it white matter or gray matter, Ashok?
It is gray matter.
Yes, and also in medulla oblongata. And here in the midbrain, there are two large nuclei of reticular formation. One of them is dark shaded nucleus, and another one is caudal nucleus. Actually, at the lecture I was wrong. Caudal nucleus, it's named interstitial nucleus, and dark shaded nucleus is named nucleus of posterior commissure. So they, from both of them, so this nucleus of posterior commissure, dark shaded nucleus, is located nearly at the boundary between midbrain and diencephalon. From both of them, medial longitudinal fasciculus starts. It is descending tract, and it connects nuclei of cranial nerves third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, which are responsible for movement of an eyeball, with spinal cord. So they regulate, like they coordinate movement of eyeballs, head, and neck together. Okay, what else? Yes, there are nuclei of cranial nerves, third and fourth pairs. And so if we make a section at the level of superior colliculi, like here, yes, then here we can see nuclei of third pair of cranial nerves, ocular motor nerve. Ocular motor nerve, it is motor nerve with parasympathetic fibers. So it has motor nucleus and autonomic nucleus. Motor nucleus is just motor, it's named motor nucleus, and it supplies 4 out of 6 muscles of an eyeball. So it regulates movement of an eyeball. Autonomic nucleus of oculomotor nerve is named Edinger-Westphal nucleus, and it gives fibers to intrinsic muscles of an eyeball, those which are inside. So they regulate diameter of the pupil, and they also regulate process of accommodation, like eyeball is tuned to close or far vision. That is what's regulated by this nucleus.
Means they will move to the medial side or lateral side?
What?
Eyeball.
No, this autonomic will not move to medial or lateral, but like
motor nucleus.
Motor nucleus will move, yes. And this autonomic, it regulates diameter of pupil depending on the amount of light, yes. And also it regulates its accommodation, like when we look at something close, it changes curvature of the lens.
Oh, understand.
And also there is one more, unpaired nucleus, nucleus impar. Unpaired nucleus, or it's also named Perlian nucleus or convergational nucleus, because it sends their fibers to medial rectus muscle of an eyeball, and it regulates converging of two eyeballs when we look at something close. Yes, when we look at something close, our eyeballs, they converge.
Yes, I know.
Okay. And if section would pass at the level of inferior colliculi, then we would see nuclei of trochlear nerve. And it's only motor nucleus of trochlear nerve, and it gives fibers to only one muscle. It is superior oblique muscle. Yes, and it also regulates movement of an eyeball. Okay, white matter of tegumentum is presented by ascending tracts, and here there are 4 limnisci. Yes, we said there is medial limniscus that is presented, that contains bulbothalamic tract. Lateral limniscus, these are auditory fibers. Yes, spinal limniscus, spinothalamic tract, and nuclear, not
trigeminal
limniscus. Yes, that contains nucleothalamic tract. Алло, да. Okay. Trigeminal limniscus, that is formed by nucleothalamic tract. Yes. And now tectum. Tectum also contains gray matter. And here at the level of superior colliculi especially, this gray matter has like a layered structure, like in cerebellum and in cortex, like layer by layer structure. And from this gray matter of colliculi, tectospinal tract passes. Tectospinal tract, it decussates at the level of the midbrain, forms this Maynard's decussation, and then it moves downward to motor nuclei of spinal cord, and it regulates this life-saving reflexes, like jump away from the source of strong sound or strong, light. Yes, like this, like protective reflexes it regulates. Okay. Yes, that was about midbrain. So cavity of the midbrain, I told you, Sylvian aqueduct. Now diencephalon. Diencephalon, here we can see on the ventral surface only, because from all the other sides it is covered by cerebral hemispheres. So at the stage of 3 brain vesicles it is developed from prosencephalon, and at the stage of 5 brain vesicles it is developed from diencephalon. We can see all the structures of diencephalon in sagittal section of the brain here. So in diencephalon, 3 parts are distinguished. First, topography. So skeletotopy. It is located in the center of middle cranial fossa. So you remember here there is sella turcica, yes, on the superior surface of the body of sphenoid bone. So hypophysis is located in the hypophyseal fossa, and optichiasm, that is also structure of diencephalon, is located here in chiasmatic groove or sulcus chiasmatis. This one. No, so from all the sides, from in front, above, and behind, there are cerebral hemispheres, and inferiorly there is midbrain, structures of the midbrain. Okay, what is next? Three parts are distinguished in diencephalon. Upper part is named thalamic brain or thalamencephalon. Lower part is named hypothalamus. And cavity of the diencephalon is named third ventricle. So we'll start first with thalamencephalon. Thalamencephalon or thalamic brain includes also three structures. It is thalamus itself, metathalamus, and epithalamus. So metathalamus, here it is from both sides, metathalamus, and here we also can see it. It is presented by geniculate bodies, a lateral geniculate body and medial geniculate body. So lateral geniculate body, we have already said about it, both of them are structures of gray matter, yes? So lateral geniculate body by means of brachium or superior colliculus is connected with superior colliculus and they are subcortical centers of vision. And medial geniculate body by means of brachium is connected with inferior colliculus and it is subcortical center of hearing. Yes. Yes.
Only hearing or balance also?
No, only hearing. Yes. So epithalamus. Epithalamus is presented by epiphysis or pineal gland, then habenula, habenular trigone, and habenular commissure, or or posterior commissure. It's also named. So epiphysis or pineal gland, it is endocrine gland that regulates circadian rhythms, so day and night cycles, because it produces serotonin and melatonin. Yes, serotonin it is a daytime hormone. And melatonin it is nighttime hormone. Also, melatonin speeds up sexual maturation, and serotonin slows it down. So that is it. Habenular commissure contains this nucleus of posterior commissure that in some books it's written that it belongs to midbrain, in some books it's written that it belongs to diencephalon. And thalamus. A thalamus or optic tuber, it's another name. Here it is paired structure. It is also structure of gray matter because it contains up to 40 nuclei. It is the main subcortical center of all types of sensation. So all sensory tracts, ascending tracts, which are moving to the cortex, they first pass through the thalamus. And third order neurons of all of these tracts, they are located here in nuclei of thalamus. So it is paired structure. It is oval shaped and it has posterior pole that is blunt-ended and it is named pulvinar, and anterior pole that is sharp and it is sharp, just anterior pole. It has several surfaces, two of them are free. So medial surface is free and it forms the lateral wall of the third ventricle. Here it is. Yes, medial and dorsal surface is also free and it forms floor of the lateral ventricle. Lateral ventricle is a cavity of telencephalon. The rest surfaces, lateral, anterior, posterior, inferior, they are fused with other structures of brain, mainly cerebral hemispheres.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Goodbye. Goodbye. So here on the medial surface there is interthalamic adhesion. It is a place where one thalamus is fused with another thalamus, interthalamic adhesion. And below the thalamus there is hypothalamic sulcus. It is a sulcus groove that separates thalamus from hypothalamus. Okay, 6 groups of nuclei, yes, I told you. Yes, they are anterior, posterior, ventrolateral, medial, and reticular. So anterior nuclei of thalamus, they are subcortical centers of olfaction. So mammillary bodies which belong to hypothalamus, they are also subcortical centers of olfaction. So from them, mammillary thalamic tract starts and it ends here in anterior nuclei of thalamus. Posterior nuclei, they are subcortical centers of vision. So optic tract passes through it. Then ventrolateral nuclei, they are subcortical centers of general types of sensation. Bulbothalamic and spinothalamic tracts, anterior and lateral, they all pass through this ventrolateral nuclei of thalamus. Median nuclei, they are subcortical centers of hearing and balance. So this tracts comes. Reticular nuclei, they collect information from nuclei of reticular formation of the brainstem. And medial group of nuclei, it is like integrational center.
Coordinate all the nuclei.
Yes, coordinate all the other nuclei. So impulses from all the rest groups of nuclei, they come here and here they are analyzed. Yes. So that's it. This is thalamus. Hypothalamus is located under thalamus, and it includes three structures. Anteriorly, it is optic chiasm. Here we can see optic chiasm. It is like white matter structure. It is no, it's not white matter because it's outside of CNS. It is fibers formed by fibers of optic nerve which decussate, half of fibers of optic nerve decussate, and they form this optic chiasm. Then behind it there is hypophysis or pituitary gland, yes, and behind pituitary gland there are mammillary bodies. So pituitary gland is attached to the rest structures of the brain by means of gray tuber, tuber cinereum, and then infundibulum. Internal structure of hypothalamus contains 4 groups of nuclei: anterior, middle, posterior, and dorsolateral. Actually, at the lecture I was also wrong. I confused 2 groups of nuclei. So anterior group, that is presented by supraoptic and preoptic, these nuclei which produce this oxytocin and vasopressin. And then this these hormones, oxytocin is a bonding hormone. Yes, it's known. It helps to establish connections between people, and also it participates in.
People or mother and child?
They are people.
Oxytocin.
No. Yes, oxytocin. Yes, no, yes, some way it's written that mother and child, some way it's written that just between 2 people, like friendship, love, it is also regulated by this oxytocin hormone. And it also regulates contractions of uterus during childbirth. Yes, vasopressin or antidiuretic hormone, it regulates blood pressure and also excretion, production of urine in nephrons. And so these 2 hormones, they move flow along the infundibulum, and they are stored in posterior lobe of pituitary gland that is named neurohypophysis. Middle group of nuclei produces releasing factors and statins, which stimulate or inhibit production of tropic hormones in anterior lobe of pituitary gland. So here, gonadotropin releasing factor, adrenocorticotropin releasing factor, and the other releasing factors and statins also, they are produced by middle group of nuclei. Then posterior group of nuclei, these are nuclei of mammillary bodies, medial and lateral, and they act as subcortical centers of olfaction. And dorsolateral group of nuclei is only one nucleus, but very long, Lewisi nucleus. It is also integrational center. It regulates functioning of all the other groups of nuclei, and it has a connection with medial nuclei of thalamus and also with basal nuclei of cerebral hemispheres. So this also coordinate.
Integration.
Yes, integrational center. And hypophysis, yes, we should know. Hypophysis, yes, we said that it is pituitary gland. It consists of 2 lobes. Posterior lobe or neurohypophysis, it doesn't produce anything, but it stores oxytocin and vasopressin. And then anterior lobe, it is adenohypophysis. It produces 5 tropic hormones. Gonadotropic hormone, they are 2, yes, FSH and LH, follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. It regulates production of hormones in reproductive glands, ovaries in females and testes in males. There is adrenocorticotropic hormone, yes, that regulates production of hormones in adrenal gland. Thyrotropic hormone, which regulates functioning of thyroid gland, yes. Somatotropic hormone or growth hormone, yes, it regulates proliferation of numerous cells in the body. Prolactin, that is
mammillary gland.
Yes, secretion of breast milk and mammary gland. And what else didn't we say? This melanocyte
FSH, LH.
It is gonadotropic, as we said. And there is also melanocyte stimulating hormone, which regulates
Skin color.
the skin color, yes, or fur color in animals. Okay, and the last thing you have to know is a third ventricle, yes? Third ventricle is a cavity of diencephalon, and it has two lateral walls. Here we can see third ventricle. Two lateral walls, superior, inferior, anterior, and posterior wall. So, two lateral walls, they are formed by medial surfaces of thalamus and also septum pellucidum in front. And so between this mammillary, what am I saying? Medial surface of thalamus and septum pellucidum, here there is interventricular foramen, Monroe foramen, that serves for communication with lateral ventricles. Maybe here, I'm not sure. Okay. Then, superior surface is formed, superior wall is formed by choroid plexus that produces cerebrospinal fluid, and inferior wall is formed by structures of hypothalamus. Here we can see optic chiasm, for example, also pituitary gland, yes, infundibulum, pituitary gland, and mammillary bodies. An inferior wall forms two like pouches or recesses. Above the optic chiasm there is optic recess, and above the infundibulum there is infundibular recess. Anterior wall is formed by anterior commissure, here passes, and posterior wall is formed by pineal gland, and in front of the pineal gland there is also pineal recess. So I told you that through interventricular foramen it communicates with lateral ventricles, and posterior inferiorly it communicates with sylvian aqueduct. That is a cavity of the midbrain. Yes, so that will be your homework for the next week. Any questions?
Cerebral cortex. No.
No, cerebral cortex we will leave for the next week.